Hi, David.
Hi, Rosabelle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you going?
I'm good. If I understand correctly, it's the end of my week, but it's the beginning of your weekend because you're slightly in the future.
That's exactly right. But, you could say that it's also the beginning of your weekend.
It's true, just a little bit earlier in the process, right?
Depends how you live your life.
Have you got a great weekend ahead of you?
Look, what is a great weekend, It's always so hard to know.
It sounds like you've got a terrible weekend ahead.
I just don't want to tell you. I'm going to my friend's exhibition today, and I'm excited about that. And there's going to be a little sausage sizzle.
Oh, that sounds great. Explain. I don't think Americans know what a sausage sizzle is. What is a sausage sizzle?
Oh, that's such a good question because I guess it's kind of like we thought we invented hot dogs, but we didn't have the proper bread to do it.
Can you explain how a New Zealander would, what a sausage sizzle is, what the actual meal is?
Yeah, so a sausage sizzle sausage is where you have someone tending to the barbecue and there's a whole bunch of sausages sizzling on the barbecue. Mm-hmm. Usually some caramelized onions on there as well. Mm-hmm. And then you get a piece of white bread, and it's important that it's white bread because it's going to be quite soft and malleable. And then you place, this is the controversial part, isn't it? You place the sausage, I think, diagonally, but some people think parallel to the bread.
Yeah, I go parallel.
Incorrect. And then you could put tomato sauce, mustard. I'd say the bread is really just a way to keep your hands clean while you're eating the sausage.
It is New Zealand's version of the American hot dog, except we don't have the hot dog bun. We just have a flat piece of white bread.
But it's also interesting because I think I would say that a lot of people actually associate it with fundraisers. We have a version of what's your version of Bunnings?
Home Depot, where ICE is arresting a lot of kidnapping a lot of people at the moment.
Oh, okay, it's quite different, yeah.
So I don't mean to make it dark, but Home Depot is the equivalent of Bunnings in New Zealand, where typically they will always have a sausage sizzle happening outside on a weekend, and it's like fundraising for a school or firefighters or something.
Exactly, and it's actually $5 now for a sausage sizzle. But
oh my God, it must be so nice. It must be so nice that people can go to Bunnings and know they're not going to be kidnapped by masked people. That's such a big difference between New Zealand and America at the moment.
Yeah, I guess some people would think that's just a basic human right, but I guess in America it's more complicated.
Yeah, complicated's certainly one word for it. Now, today's topic, it is about to take a real hard pivot, it's about the Streisand Effect. And I'm wondering, do you know what the Streisand Effect is?
Well, do you want an honest answer or do you want...
Rosabelle, that's what I always expect from you, is an honest answer. Do I not get honest answers typically when I call you?
This is a bit of a tricky question to answer because you actually asked me this question a couple of weeks ago.
I did, when I was researching this episode.
Yes, well, I didn't realise that. I thought you were just making some nice conversation with your friend.
No, it's always about the podcast.
And so when you first asked it 2 weeks ago, I did have to Google it to remind myself. I forgot. But yes, now I kind of know what it is.
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, the Streisand Effect is when you try and hide or remove something so no one sees it, but the effort you make to hide it just makes everyone super curious and even more aware of that thing. That's what the Streisand Effect is. Do you have any examples of that in your own life or that you've observed around you?
It's really the realm of the powerful, people who might sue for defamation. Most of the time, I don't think you feel like you can control what gets out there, maybe.
Yeah, so people worried about the Streisand Effect are people that with a lot of money and a lot of things to be worried about and a lot of skeletons in the closet.
Well, it's expensive to suppress information. I don't know how you would do it. And do you know what? I wonder if it's different in Aotearoa because everybody knows everybody's business. Maybe in America or a bigger country, it seems like it's actually feasible.
Yeah, you're right. In New Zealand, everyone knows everyone else's shit because it's such a small country. So there's no point in trying to really shut anything down because everyone knows it.
I know this isn't quite a good example of the Streisand Effect, but name suppression is a really good example here where in the news it will be reported that someone's name is suppressed, but inevitably you'll be able to find out who it is.
Yeah, the second in the New Zealand news you hear like a prominent businessman or prominent musician or comedian has name suppression, they've done something terrible, suddenly everyone seeks to find out who that person is, whereas before they wouldn't have really cared.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I'm sure they would have cared, and that's why they want to know who is the abuser.
God, we've covered a lot of ground in this, haven't we?
ICE, abuse, court cases.
Yeah, God, I try and be lighthearted, but if you're doing a podcast about American culture, it always ends up being like a bit bleak.
Well, we talked about sausages, but I guess some people would say that's linked to animal cruelty.
Oh, God, you're right. I'm David Farrier, a New Zealander accidentally marooned in America, and I want to figure out what makes this country tick. Now, I'm going to list a series of events, and you can tell me what they all have in common. This game is probably ruined slightly by the fact you already know the episode title, and Rosabelle and I talked about it quite a bit. In 2008, the Church of Scientology tried to get websites to delete an embarrassing video of Tom Cruise ranting about Scientology, leading to a mass movement of spreading the clip even further. In 2014, North Korea protested The Interview, a Seth Rogen comedy that wasn't all that popular, but suddenly everyone knew about it. And in 2022, Elon Musk banned the Twitter account @ElonJet. This was before he bought Twitter, an account that reported his private jet flights. This drew mass media coverage to all of Musk's private jet flights. They're all examples of the Streisand Effect, when someone tries to hide or remove something so no one else sees it, and that effort just makes everyone super curious and very aware of that thing. See also, J.D. Vance fucking a couch. You've probably seen examples of this in your own life, like when no one would have even noticed that certain thing if you hadn't made a big deal about it not being a big deal in the first place. Now, while I've known about the Streisand Effect for what feels like forever, I hadn't really thought about where the term came from, and I had no idea the term had been invented by an American. So, in this episode, I set out to find that American, the first person to ever utter the words Streisand Effect. So, prepare to hide, deny, and rebuff something as much as humanly possible, knowing full well it will only make the situation much, much worse, because this is the Streisand Effect episode.
Flightless, flightless, flightless bird touchdown in America. I'm a flightless bird touchdown in America.
Rob, how are you?
I'm great. So you didn't know who Barbara Streisand was?
Yeah, I did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. So Barbara Streisand, we'll get into this. Obviously,
Okay.
Barbara Streisand, American singer, but it was also an American, and this is what I didn't know until this episode. It was an American that termed the Streisand Effect. Like a single man that was like, I know what we're gonna call this thing, the Streisand Effect. American woman, American man, combined, Streisand Effect.
So I don't know what the Streisand Effect is.
Oh, this
I didn't
is incredible.
know what it was going into this. It's like similar to Mandela Effect.
Yeah, I mean, the Mandela Effect is like the other big one, right?
Yeah.
That was, I actually took a note on this. That was invented by
Nelson Mandela.
By Nelson Mandela. No, a paranormal investigator called Fiona Broom. And she reported having vivid, detailed memories of news coverage of South African anti-apartheid leader Nelson Mandela dying in prison, when in fact he hadn't died in prison.
Yeah, and then How to with John Wilson, there was an episode of
Oh, did he do it?
on the Mandela Effect where they cover all of the different Mandela Effect
'Cause there are great
cases. Yeah.
examples, right?
And there's ones that like, yeah, I could see that going either way.
The one that the Mandela Effect that always got me was Mr. Monopoly, whatever that guy is.
Monocle.
Wearing a monocle, but he doesn't wear a monocle. That's just in our brains. It's like a mass psychosis that we all have.
To me, there's got to be explanations to most of them. Like, I think it's maybe Mr. Peanut had a monocle
Crossover.
and a top hat.
Two animated old men.
Yeah.
This the one, what was the one with Sinbad?
Sinbad.
He
There
was
like
in
a
this
movie or something.
Yeah, I wrote that down as well. Shazam, which doesn't exist. So there was a 1990s movie that people think existed,
yeah.
Shazam, starring Sinbad, never existed.
I also think that's Kazam, the movie with Shaq.
I guess so. So it's like us substituting like one black man for another black man, essentially.
I do think it's weird that a lot of people kind of have this shared memory of it.
Because that's the thing with Mandela Effect, it's not one person thinking of something differently.
Yeah.
It's all of us collectively having a different memory.
I think it's just like a collective confusion of like, oh yeah,
But
I
it's
can
so
see that.
specific.
It is very.
Like we're all picturing a Monopoly man with like
with
a monocle. There's one other one that I jotted down. Berenstain Bears. I didn't have these in New Zealand. I didn't know them. But the book's been spelt Berenstein instead of Berenstain. So that was one.
Yeah, the spelling ones don't really get me the same.
Yeah,
there's
like who gives a shit?
Stouffer Stuffers.
Oh, yeah,
there's
who cares?
one. There's a lot of just like old food items and like brands that like, oh, this didn't exist, or like the Raisin Bran guy had sunglasses.
You're right. You don't care about any of that. It's like
I mean, those are the ones that I think people more
interesting.
collectively agree on, but also you're talking about memories from 20 years ago.
Yeah, things change.
I don't know. The whole idea of like, no, I'm not misremembering this. The past changed seems like an insane argument to me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's all this talk of like a glitching simulation has like made that more popular, right?
Yeah.
Where people are like, oh, it must be a thing.
Yeah.
But no, I think there's much more boring explanations. Like, as you say, like Mr. Peanut or whatever. The one that kind of blew my mind in Star Wars, Luke, I am your father. That was never said, which blew my mind. It was, no, I am your father. There was no Luke there.
But again, I think that's also like someone got that wrong a while ago and it ended up
somehow
being
it's just spread
retold
this
everywhere.
widely.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, so you knew Mandela Effect, but the term Streisand Effect you'd never heard of before.
Not before you said you were doing a topic on this.
I wonder how many people listening, flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com, if you want to write in, how many people actually know about this or it's completely brand new. I assumed everyone would have an idea of what it was.
I mean, to be honest, Barbara Streisand also kind of fits the Mandela effect to me.
Yeah, like who, what?
She could be Dolly Parton. She could be Barbara Walters. She like if you're telling me to imagine who Barbara Streisand is right now, I'm imagining like 4 old white women right now.
People, yeah, sort of they all blur in together.
Yeah.
There's going to be a mega Streisand fan listening to this with their blood absolutely boiling.
That's
being
fair.
Like, this is why she's the most amazing person of all time.
And it's nothing against Barbara Streisand.
Now, after this episode, I have beef with Barbara Streisand.
Yeah,
like she seems, at least in relation to this particular story, not a fan of her whole approach to life.
Also, generationally, like that's my mom. My mom would know. Barbara
Your
Streisand.
mum would love Barbara.
I'm sure she
Streisand.
does. We went to Dollywood as kids. Like,
oh my god, that's where I want to go for the show at some point. By the way,
let's
desperately.
Go.
Okay, I had a tiny bit of news to cover. Is that all right?
I guess so. Yeah.
James Dobson. You'd messaged me about this. Dead as a doorknob. He was the leader of Focus on the Family. We did a whole episode about him. So yeah, if you didn't listen to our Focus on the Family episode, James Dobson was at one point one of the most influential evangelical Christian leaders of all time and kind of taught a bunch of American parents like how to parent, but in not a great way. Like a lot of you've got to like smack the shit out of your kids if you want them to comply.
Yeah.
A lot of quite damaging messages. And so looking on the internet, there's like probably the people you'd expect in America being like, oh, this incredibly moral, wonderful person has died. And then a bunch of people sort of our age who were maybe like raised with a bit of that being like, thank God he's gone.
I've mostly seen that. Gleefully celebrating.
There's not many people that die. Even if unpleasant people die, the whole celebration thing isn't that common. With Dobson, people are like, and I'm part of that, I'm like, this is fine. You know, like this, we're not like the world is a better place without him in it. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah.
He's got like 93 years of damage behind him, you know, not great. I've got some personal news. As I was leaving my apartment block. Girlfriend? I do have a girlfriend. That's some other news.
Oh,
that's for another day.
You do?
I do. Yeah.
What?
Okay, that's another podcast. Okay. As I left my apartment, there was a notice on the door. I live in an apartment block of maybe 40 apartments. Notice and order to comply. So this is from the city of LA. It's taped on our front door. Our records indicate you're the owner of the property located at blah, blah, blah.
Is that your apartment door?
Yeah, my apartment door only. No, to be clear, the whole block. An inspection of the premises has revealed conditions that affect the health and safety of the occupants. That's me. I'm one of the occupants. And caused the building determined to be in violation of the City of LA Municipal Code. So yeah, there's going to be another inspection. And I guess my question is, I wonder what happens if my building fails. And my question to you, maybe it gets shut down. I'll be out looking for a new place to live.
Does it list the violations?
Let's have a look. No, nothing specific on the door. Obviously, like the landlord or whoever owns the place will have that information, I assume.
Hopefully it's not like black mold or...
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like the joy of living in LA is everything is so dry. I think it's not, but it is a bit worrying. I'm curious what it is.
Lead poisoning. There could be a number of things. Bed bugs.
I've been drinking the water out of the tap for like 4 years now. I wonder how that's going to be.
I wouldn't recommend that.
Probably a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
Oh, God. If you wonder why I look like I look, that's like the reason.
Your hair's falling out.
It's like it's a real problem. Okay, a headline in Associated Press. The Trump administration is reviewing all, this is quite a big job, reviewing all 55 million foreigners with US visas for any violations. The Trump administration said Thursday it's reviewing more than 55 million people who have valid US visas. Not to make it all about me, but that's
you.
Includes me. For any violations that could lead to deportation, part of a growing crackdown on foreigners who are permitted to be in the US. And it just struck me as, I just sort of like a very simple question, like why?
Yeah.
Like it's such an administrative nightmare. Like what are they trying to achieve?
Well, I mean, you know what they're trying to achieve.
Just make people be terrified and self-deport.
Yeah, and suppress
that aren't white.
The voices of people that disagree with what this administration is doing.
Completely. So I'm here on an O1 visa. So that's like a 3-year work visa, basically. I'm renewing it about the middle of next year. And it's just so interesting thinking about like, I don't know, what are they trawling through? Are they running like AI over like all my things I've written? It's like, I wrote recently about the that Al Jazeera newsroom pretty much being wiped out in Gaza. Israel just decided it's killed about 100 journalists now. Mm-hmm. It's like, if I write that, is that deemed me defending Hamas? Because that's the excuse Israel uses, is that all these journalists are Hamas, which is absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just a strange, like what constitutes that?
Yeah.
55 million people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I just found that it's really fucking odd.
Yeah, well, so this show might be moving remotely, is what you're saying at some point.
Yeah, there could be like a lot of episodes out of New Zealand all of a sudden. And
it's going to be real hard for you to do like field work about America.
It may have to like hard pivot to a flightless bird being in the country it's meant to be in, New Zealand. And it's just like very specific New Zealand topics from now on.
And then just tons of Zoom interviews for you with Americans.
Yeah, heaps. Yeah, I'm just getting up on like ungodly hours of the day, Zooming with like annoying American states. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And the final thing, and we can cut this out if we need to, and I always feel very self-conscious doing this, but I want to do some self-promotion. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I did, and it kind of ties in because...
cut this out, though.
No, so I wanted to talk about this because Mike Masnick is the guy that I'm talking to in the doc today. He's the guy that termed Streisand Effect. And I did a really big thing last week. I write an investigative newsletter, Webworm, which I'm very proud of. I always want to raise it on here more, but I always feel like self-conscious about promoting myself. But fuck it, I might as well. So Webworm has existed on this platform called Substack for a while. I spoke with Mike about this because Substack has been doing this quite annoying thing where it's been hosting a bunch of Nazi writers, and not just slight Nazis, but full-on Nazis.
Yeah.
I've known this for about a year and been feeling quite awkward about it, but a slightly awful thing happened where Substack's social media algorithm started pushing a Substack Nazi newsletter to other users. And so at that point, I realized I can't risk my readers getting that. And so I've taken Webworm off Substack onto another platform called Ghost, which is just a big administrative chaos. But I'm now out of Substack's like magic algorithm, which spread my stuff around to other people, which was kind of neat, I think, but was also spreading Nazi shit around as well. So my plea being, if you like what I do and you like some of the weirder deep dives that I do, if you go to webworm.co, that is where I do like a lot of my journalism work. There's a completely free version where you just get my journalism emailed to you. If you're rich and you have spare money lying around, it's like the cost of a fancy coffee a month. And that kind of like
rich.
Well, I never want people paying that like don't have excess money. Like I'd rather them be like saving it. But if they have spare money, I'll happily take it.
You made it seem like it's very expensive that only rich people can afford
no,
it.
It's about it's $6.99 a month. So it's not crazy money. But also if you can't afford it, I don't want you paying for it. But yeah, if like, for instance, that fake seizure guy episode that we did, that was all based on like extensive webworm reporting I'd done. Focus on the Family came out of that. Spaceman Barry was a webworm thing that then we brought onto this podcast. So I'm very proud of webworm. And I just want to say, if you like my stuff, consider going to webworm.co and signing up, because I like to think you'll like it. And Mike Masnick, who I talked to in this episode, he was a big encourager of me making that shift. And so last week I did, which was a bit of a technical nightmare, but we got through it. And I now feel much better about writing my newsletter on a platform that isn't also hosting Nazis. They're not great. As a kid, I used to like shoot them in Wolfenstein, and I still feel like in a similar way about them,
Yeah, I don't think they've improved.
Not really. No, still as awful as ever, and so weird that they still exist and have a space to talk.
Yeah.
Like it's one of these weird mysteries of the universe that I don't understand. Like I was shooting Nazis in a video game when I was about 9 in New Zealand. I'm now 42, and they're allowed to like wander around and do their thing. Anyway, that's the end of my little PSA about webworm. Streisand Effect.
Streisand Effect.
Are you ready to learn?
Let's do it.
I'm going to learn.
My name is Mike Masnick. I have trouble describing what I do. I think most people think of me as a journalist. I think I tried to do something a little bit broader than that in terms of educating people about complex topics, and I'll leave it at that.
Nearly 3 decades ago, Mike founded a tech blog called Tech Dirt, which tended to focus on IP, privacy, copyright, and legal issues that were arising from this newfangled thing called the internet. It was 1997, and the internet was a really different place back then. People like me used Netscape Navigator and Microsoft Internet Explorer, connecting to the internet via modem, which tied up all the phone lines. As Tech Dirt was founded, I was playing video games like Tomb Raider 2 and GoldenEye, and downloading pirated MP3s on Napster, one song at a time. When you were writing about tech back then, what were the kinds of things you were writing about? Like, I feel like we're in a very different world today, what you'd be doing. Like, what sort of things were jumping out at you back then? Like, what were some of the big stories that were swishing around?
Yeah, things were very different, but in some ways they echo. I was writing a lot about copyright issues of all things, because that was where there were a lot of debates and discussions. It was the era of early Napster. I was writing something about competition, because that was the point at which a lot of companies were very concerned about Microsoft dominating the space and what that meant for innovation. And then, was definitely writing about some it was the very early days of the internet. So there was a lot of discussion about what the internet meant and how big of an impact it was actually going to have. And so, it was a different time, and there were different concerns, but there was a lot that in many ways was kind of similar. And I think you can find a through line from those days to today.
Mike is still very, very plugged into the internet. Tech Dirt's still going, and it's generally agreed upon that Mike inspired Blue Sky through a paper he wrote. Last year, he became a board member at Blue Sky. But back in the 90s, he noticed that with the rise of the internet came a rise in something else: lawsuits.
Yeah. So one of the things I had been writing a lot about from the very beginning, were sort of crazy legal threats that came about with the internet. And it was sort of an extension of just writing about legal issues as it related to the internet. And, as the internet was new and it was sort of different and allowed people to speak in ways they hadn't spoken before, there was a sort of rush in the early days for there to be some, what I would describe as fairly crazy lawsuits related to speech on the internet.
And that brings us to one very particular lawsuit that Mike would never have come across if not for the system he'd created to keep across all the news on the internet.
Those were the days when we had a very different information ecosystem. There was no Google News. There was no Google Reader at that point. And so I had a hacked together system for reading multiple news websites at once. That I don't remember when in the process because I went through a few of these, but I had a friend at MIT who had written a system that would scrape all these different websites and pull together links. And so I was probably through one of those, and I saw this story, which just seemed, ridiculous from the very beginning. There was this guy who was a fairly successful software entrepreneur, and he also happened to like to fly helicopters. And he decided that it would be a good project to start flying along the entire west coast of the United States, taking photographs all along the way, and do that every few years to document coastal erosion, which, is an interesting project. And the thanks that he got for doing this was that he got sued by Barbara Streisand after her lawyers realized that one of the photographs included her house on the coast.
So, back in 2003, photographer Kenneth Adelman had begun a very ambitious project called the California Coastal Records Project, where he planned to take photos of the entire west coast of California from his helicopter to help track coastal erosion. But in amongst 12,000 or so images, Kenneth dared to add one particular photo that contained American singer Barbara Streisand's seaside house in Malibu, aka image 3850. Streisand and her lawyers came across the photo and sued Kenneth for $50 million. The lawsuit contained 5 different claims around privacy and publicity rights violations, $10 million in damages for each claim. Barbara Streisand wanted $50 million for one photo. Was there any logic in this lawsuit whatsoever? Could you put yourself in Barbara's shoes and go, look, I can see where you're coming from here, Barbara?
No, is the simple answer. There was nothing that made sense. The whole thing seemed like a joke. It seemed like, an obvious case of the rich and the powerful sort of abusing the legal system to try and silence someone. There was no basis.
So you see this lawsuit come in, you go, this is a deeply unusual lawsuit. Why did you choose to chase it, and how long did you chase it before you realized that, hey, this lawsuit is creating some ripples here?
Yeah, I mean, one, it was just a fabulous story, just, because of the ridiculousness of it. And so, it was sort of fun to pay attention to on that front. And then came the news, and this, I believe, came out in a filing by Ken's lawyers, were that before the lawsuit was filed, that photograph had less than 10 visits, 2 of which were from her lawyers. Basically, nobody had seen this.
No one had seen it because no one cared. It's not like the photo of Barbara's house was sitting on a website with the headline, look, this is Barbara Streisand's house. Barbara Streisand wasn't in the photo. You couldn't see her cat. It was just a photo of some house on the coastline, along with 12,000 other images of whatever else was on the coastline.
There was a very, very small number of people had seen the photo, and as soon as the lawsuit became public and the Associated Press wrote a story about it, then in that weekend, I think it received 500,000 views. So basically, suddenly everyone saw it. And I thought that was kind of an amusing outcome and worth pointing out and calling out how this attempt to have this content censored would lead to a lot more attention to it. And it felt to me like a particularly internet type of story, that this is how it would happen. And this was a sort of quintessential example of how the internet was different than other types of media. And that made it a really interesting story and worth pointing out.
Kenneth took that photo sometime in 2002. No one gave a shit. Then Streisand sued on May 20, 2003. Mike says she apparently tried to file the lawsuit under seal, but her lawyers messed up, so it became very public. AP found out about it and did their story. Other outlets, including TechDirt, followed up. On June 24th, 2003, TechDirt wrote that the photo of Streisand's house had become an internet hit. But the term Streisand Effect, that still hadn't happened yet. So wait, so the first time you uttered or typed those two words, Streisand Effect, where was that? Was that on TechDirt or was that somewhere else?
It was on TechDirt, and I believe it was somewhere a year and a half to 2 years after that whole lawsuit was filed. I think, a lot of people assume that I named it that when it happened, but it wasn't. It actually came about from a different story a couple of years later, where, I continued to see sort of similar attempts to bully people and sort of use very aggressive lawyering to take down content online. And then there was another story that involved a very silly website, which last I checked was still online, called urinal.net, which was, this was the early internet where people would put up all sorts of silly websites. And this was a website that was just photographs of urinals from around the world. And so they had gotten a legal threat from one of the locations. I think it was like some sort of resort where there was a photo of a urinal. And they were like, what do we do about this? Because they were just, some guys who ran a stupid website. And I was like, can I write about this? And so I wrote about how stupid it was for this resort to threaten them. And sort of jokingly, at the very end of the article, I said we should have a name for this sort of thing where, a lawyer gets really aggressive and tries to hide something, and instead it leads to more attention drawn to it. Why don't we just call it the Streisand Effect?
Mike Masnick published those two words on January 5th, 2005, almost 2 years after Streisand had filed her $50 million lawsuit.
And I just had made it up on the spot, included it at the end of the article, and linked back to that original article about the photo of her house getting so much extra attention.
Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Bombas. There's something I want to say at the top. Bombas has a Very Hungry Caterpillar sock. Did you ever read that book as a kid?
Yeah, Vinny still has that book and loves that book.
Yeah, okay. So Bombas has a Very Hungry Caterpillar sock. It's knit, it's beautiful. The whole sock is the color palette and the caterpillar from that book. It's amazing.
Go get those socks.
Go and get those socks. Like. Summer's here and we're all chasing something. We're chasing a break, a vibe. Don't let bad socks ruin that vibe. Whether it's the Hungry Caterpillar socks or some running socks or some beautiful socks for the wedding you need to go to, Bombas has them all. The other thing that I really like about Bombas socks is that, you know how you can get socks that are loose at the top after a while and they like fall down your leg? What I've noticed about Bombas socks is very elasticy and like tight. So they hug those legs. There's nothing worse than the top of a sock looking like a droopy little thing. You'll never have that with Bombas.
And Bombas also, they do white tees.
Yes, not just socks.
Waterproof slides for the beach, backyard, everywhere in between.
And also, they don't just feel good, they do good as well. One purchased equals one donated to someone who needs it, which is pretty great. And if you're not listening in America, don't panic. You can also order Bombas abroad. Along with the US, they now ship internationally to over 200 countries.
So head over to bombas.com and use code BIRD for 20% off your first purchase.
That's BOMBAS.com, code BIRD at checkout. Bombas.com and use code BIRD. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Shopify. If you've been online shopping, if you've ever noticed that purple Shop Pay button and how easy it makes buying something online, well, that purple button is the telltale sign that a store is powered by Shopify. And Shopify doesn't just make it easy to buy, it makes it incredibly easy to start a business no matter what your experience is. There's a reason that purple Shop Pay button is so loved.
Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names to brands just getting started.
And Shopify gives you that leg up from day dot with hundreds of beautiful, ready-to-go templates to express your brand style. And forget about any horrible code if you're not into writing code.
Spread your brand's word with built-in marketing and email tools to find and keep new customers. And did we mention that iconic Shop Pay button that's used by millions of businesses around the world? I do love just one click, all your information's there.
Easy.
Check out.
Also, purple, one of my favorite colors. If you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/bird.
Go to shopify.com/bird. Shopify.com/bird.
At what point did you realize that this was being used in other places? Because my brain almost can't fathom this term that people use so casually. I, until a few weeks ago, did not know the origin of the term until my brain suddenly went, what is this? It's that commonplace, and I'm wondering when you realize what you're done, because it is really rare and super unique, I think.
Yeah, and it's really strange, and I had nothing to do with it, which is also weird. I mean, I used it that one time. I used it a few times after that, and then it sort of took on a life of its own through no effort by myself. So there were two key moments that surprised me, and one was, and I think I have the details right. Again, this is now 20 years ago, so I could be wrong. But I think the first moment where it started, where I realized oh, this is becoming something larger, was that Forbes magazine mentioned it. And I was like, oh, that's like a real publication. Look at that. And then soon after that, there was another controversy involving a Swiss bank. And NPR's All Things Considered, which is, a pretty big radio program, wanted to talk about that. They had threatened someone. And so there was all this discussion of, how the threat was getting more attention to it. So they asked me to come on All Things Considered with Robert Siegel to discuss the Streisand Effect.
During that interview, host Robert Siegel joked with Mike that he'd made this really big mistake, suggesting Mike should have named it after himself, the Mike Masnick Effect, so people would know it was him who'd invented it. Has there been a moment when you've been trying to, you just haven't been able to help yourself and you've been trying to impress someone and it's just come out? Like, I turned that, you fucker.
I don't think so. There are times when I have sort of jokingly referred to it, but generally, usually just in writings online. In person, I'm probably more embarrassed by it than
you're not peacocking around the room telling everyone you meet.
I'm not. That's not really my style.
Just roughly ballpark in your mind, if there was a time where I could teleport myself back in time and I said the Streisand Effect and everyone looked at me blankly, and a time when I said it and there was a good chance that people would go, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Roughly when do you think that was?
Yeah, somewhere around 2010, 2011, I think it sort of hit that tipping point. It wasn't something that I consciously tried to spread. It wasn't something I said, oh, this is my ticket to fame. I just named it, and then it sort of took on a life of its own.
I was really curious about this. Like how this term, these two words invented in America, spread pretty much around the entire globe. And not just those words, but the meaning of those words. Suddenly, over in New Zealand, we all knew what the Streisand Effect meant. I was curious how it had happened. And I figured a man who's been looking very closely at the internet for 30 years probably has some theories.
Certainly, TechDirt, where I published at the time, was pretty small. Like, we were not that big. We're still not that big, but like, we're bigger than we were. And it just, it just took off. I think the articles helped. I do think soon after the Forbes piece and being on NPR, that was really when, social media was starting. So it was the early days. And you did have Facebook. Facebook was like 2007 timeframe. So I think really a lot of it came about just because it's a useful term. And so when people needed a shorthand to sort of explain different events, and often these events, the events where people, where the Streisand effect comes up, are ones where it feels unfair. And when things feel unfair, people want to express themselves about how unfair it is. And so if there's a sort of simple term that is useful for making that, expression, get out there, it became a very useful thing. So it was sort of a right place at the right time sort of thing.
The other thing I think's really interesting about the Streisand effect is that it's a kind of built-in PSA, a built-in warning to the rich bullies of the world.
I would like to think that there's a sort of public service element to it existing, which is the idea that hopefully, it teaches some people not to go crazy legal, when that is sort of an initial instinct. And there was a part of me that always thought that it sort of marked a change in some, at least to some extent, some thinking in how lawyers should respond to a situation. Because I think that pre-internet, the natural inclination of lawyers who, a client comes to them and says, I'm upset about this. The natural inclination is we're going to go in hard. We're going to have the most aggressive threat letter we can possibly come up with. And we're just going to scare this person into removing that content. And the internet enabled this ability for those who were then threatened to talk about it, or for that to become news and draw more attention to it. And so there is certainly now a class of lawyers who understand the Streisand effect and recommend to their clients, like, there might be a better way because this could really backfire on you. And I think that's very much a product of the Streisand effect, and this idea that, maybe there's a nicer way to go about this, and maybe your aggressiveness is going to do the exact opposite of what you're hoping.
Of course, not everyone listens to that PSA. All around us are constant examples of people not listening, like every time Trump tells people there's nothing to see in the Epstein files. And then there are those who embrace the Streisand effect because they want to get noticed, a perverse kind of PR.
There was a period of time where I felt that there was what I sometimes jokingly refer to as the reverse Streisand effect, where it felt as though some people were doing it, sending legal threats on purpose as a kind of marketing strategy, or acting out that, like, oh, I'm going to be censored. And so sort of using that to try and get publicity.
If one were to sum up what the Streisand effect is all about, I think it's a story about the internet, about how this new invention really started to change our lives since the late 90s. It strikes me that back then, pre-Streisand effect, we had such hope for the internet. It was this magical, amazing place to find information. It would save us. Today, I think it feels a lot less shiny. Do you have any broad thoughts about like where the internet is today and how hopeful you are about what it represents and what it's doing? Because to me, I feel very confused about the good bits and the bad bits. And I feel like everyone is.
Yeah. I think we're in an interesting time right now because, the internet has enabled a ton of really good things and a ton of really bad things. And at times it feels like people overweight one side or the other. And I think that, like, right now, certainly there's a sentiment out there that it's all bad and that the world would be better if the internet went away or all of social media went away. And I think that is wrong. I think we, are discounting all of the wonderful things that social media has done. I mean, for a lot of people, it has helped them find community and friends and job opportunities and all sorts of really, really good things. And the stories of the good things it's brought, I think, are important. The problems, I think, have more to do with sort of the nature of who controls social media and what their intentions are and what their motivations are and how they're sort of, twisting the knobs and manipulating it to that interest. And I think that is part of the reason that makes people feel really bad about it.
At this point, he reminds me that yes, he is part of Blue Sky's board, so take his words with a grain of salt, etc. But also, I find myself really agreeing with him.
So where I am hopeful, I think that there is an opportunity to redo social media in a way that really does enhance the good parts and limits the bad parts. And a lot of that is putting control and the power and the ability to choose what you want and what you don't want into the hands of the users rather than leaving that up to the companies. And it's a really tall order to get there. And it's a big task and it's difficult in part because there's so much inertia and it's difficult. When people get used to something, to get them to try something new is very difficult. But I think that we have an opportunity now to do a much better job and to do it in a way that, where the focus is 100% on the user and that it is not just a company trying to exploit the users for the owner's benefit. Whether or not we can get there is something we're going to have to find out. But I feel that, we have more of an opportunity to do that now than we have, in the past decade and a half.
Are there any sort of parting words just when you reminisce about the Streisand Effect and everything that's happened since?
I don't know if this is useful or not. I have two things. So one, there was a really fascinating thing, which was a few years ago, Barbara Streisand released her memoir. And she does mention the Streisand Effect, and she misrepresents it, and I thought it was very funny. However, someone pointed out that earlier in the book, she talked about when she first became a star and how the media would make up all sorts of stuff about her. And they would lie about her, and they would say things about who she was dating or whatever, which was completely made up. And she says in the book at this time that she knew and she learned right away not to respond, not to threaten the media, just let the story go, because otherwise you turn it into a bigger story than it already is. She says all that and makes no reference to the Streisand Effect when she does so, but implies that she understood it in the 1960s. And then later in the book, she talks about the actual Streisand Effect and how it happened and how unfair she feels that was about that it's been named after her without making that connection. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. The other thing I'll add is that, I think we're living in a time where the internet, I think our general view of the internet has changed. And I mentioned a little bit of this earlier. The internet has connected so many people and enabled so many people to have a voice that never had a voice before. And we've learned so much about people that we otherwise never would have learned about. And certainly, creating community, creating access to different people, creating this world where we can just reach out to the world and talk to the world is super, super powerful. And and I think the Streisand Effect was just, one element of beginning to understand and beginning to show how much power the internet had for speech. And I worry about the world that we're in right now, where there is this view of, all of this speech is bad and the internet is bad, and we have to do anything we can to sort of shut it down and stop social media. And I think we'll really regret that in a way that, we don't want to go back to the world that we lived in pre-Streisand Effect, where someone like a Barbara Streisand could see something negative said about her and immediately resort to a ridiculous legal threat and silence people. And I think that is the world that we might be heading towards. And I think we would really regret it if that's where we ended up.
This year makes it 20 years since Mike termed the Streisand Effect. A time in internet history when we were reminded that the little guy had a chance to push back against the rich and powerful. And maybe today in 2025 it's nice to be reminded of that. Oh, and Barbara Streisand's lawsuit got thrown out by the judge. Absolutely shredded to pieces. She had to pay Kenneth about $177,000 for his legal costs. And Kenneth's website of coastal erosion is still up, by the way, including the photo of Barbara Streisand's Malibu home. If you want to be reminded of what the internet looked like back in 2002, please give it a visit, californiacoastline.org. And tell Barbara that Flightless Bird sent you. Hopefully she sues Flightless Bird, and suddenly we're on the top 10 podcast lists worldwide. Watch out, Rogan. Watch out, Theo Von. We're coming for you. Robert, what's your middle name? I'm just curious. I was going to say like Robert, middle name, Robert, because I'm David Andrew.
Yeah, you have any guesses?
I think you're like a Freddie, or maybe a Chad, or maybe a Chaz,
Wow,
or maybe
Chaz. You think Chaz is my middle name?
Yeah, Rob Chaz. What's your middle name? I'm David Andrew.
Robert Gregory.
Gregory.
Yeah,
that's cute. I like Gregory.
Just my dad's name.
Oh,
and Vincent Gregory.
What's Calvin's middle name?
Calvin Harold.
That's cool. I like that. Robert Gregory.
David Andrew.
What did we learn about, what do we think about the Streisand Effect and the internet and Barbara?
I mean, it's pretty laughably stupid.
Her take?
Yeah.
It's wild, right?
From 8 real views to 500,000 because she made a stink over it.
8 views, most of them being from her and her legal team.
Yeah, well, it was 10 views, but 2 were lawyers.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
So she found out about it because, there was the photo of her house, and it had an ability to comment under it. About the 10th comment down, someone had mentioned something like, I think this is Barbara's house. Tiny little comment, wouldn't have changed her life.
Yeah.
I looked at the photo, I zoomed in, she's not nude in the window. She doesn't have like her personal shit out. It's just the most generic, dumb mansion imaginable.
Well, it's also funny because this is what Google Maps does now to every single house. Like, there's satellite photos of every neighborhood.
The most high-res look at your house from above, from the side, street view has like straight through your window.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah, you're right. Should we sue?
Yeah, we should sue for all of the photos.
I wonder how many people have sued Google for certain things being shown. There must be like a bunch of lawsuits about that.
Yeah, or if like this was a landmark case that was
but
like,
we're not dealing with this anymore.
You can't sue for that.
50 million.
That was shocking when you said the amount.
5 different counts she was going after, 10 million each. It's like when you're already so wealthy, the idea of going after a photographer, like a hobbyist.
I mean, it's also what is happening right now.
Lawsuit-wise?
Yeah, it just what the administration is currently doing.
Oh, just shutting down newsrooms, like just flinging lawsuits around willy-nilly. I mean, Trump's taken that to a whole different level, where some of it's for attention and some of it absolutely is just for annihilating people that talk out against him, right?
Yeah, or it's just like a power move to scare people into submission.
Yeah. And it also feels like that was novel when he first got in, but it's like such a blur now. It almost feels like it's like normalized, right? It's like, oh, another lawsuit. Who cares? Which is bad that that's normalized.
Yeah, no, it's terrible that that's a tactic that has become effective.
Yeah, and for him, it's got such a level of money that it is effective. That's the thing.
Mr. Organ, too.
Yeah, same thing. Exactly the same thing. I was actually thinking about this when he was talking, and again, this is like a very self-centered take, but when I made Tickled, that was that documentary kind of changed my life. I'd been in a newsroom for 8 years. I'd probably still be in a newsroom in New Zealand now, which would be fine. But that documentary came along and kind of like changed the trajectory. Like, I wouldn't be making Flightless Bird if I hadn't made that doc. But, I'd just come across some like weird videos of people tickling on the internet. If I hadn't immediately got cease and desist letters from America and New Zealand, I would have just got bored and like looked at something else. I hadn't figured out when to start shooting that documentary, and the big bad in the documentary flew people to New Zealand to tell me don't dare make the documentary. It's like the ultimate example of the Streisand Effect.
Yeah, the cease and desist informed you that there was a story there to tell.
Completely.
And that like, if you would have just been talking about that into a void, you probably would have been like, oh, there's not a lot here.
If they'd just emailed back, been like, oh, we're a bit busy, we're not going to give an interview, I'd be like, okay, on to the next story in the newsroom. I'd do like 10 stories a day. Whereas like a cease and desist, you're like, oh, you're covering something up. So it's such a, I think to any journalist working on a story, if you get that kind of response, it's like, oh, of course there's a story here.
Yeah.
And you push on, you know?
It encourages you to dig
completely.
deeper.
It's like dog to a bone. I wrote a little bit about the Streisand Effect on Webworm ages ago, and a guy, Duncan, emailed me. He said, there's a wonderful addition to all this. If you search the most recent photograph on California, that California coastal site, there's a super high-res do-over of the Barbara Streisand mansion. Surely not a coincidence. And so I wonder if because it's 20 years, the guy who was like flying choppers around like decided to take another flight and like add on her house again, like celebrating 20 years of that happening, which I love.
She still lives there?
No idea.
Yeah.
No idea. She probably doesn't. It's probably like someone else's house.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that far from here.
Should we go?
If you take a field trip,
Should we
really
drive?
quick.
I feel like all the houses out in Malibu are like very big gates in front of them. And it's like you see it on Google Maps and not even be able to get close.
It's not like the Home Alone house.
Not like the Home Alone
You
house.
just
You can
drive
just like
up
turn
and
up
knock
to the
on the
front
door.
door. Have you ever had anything like in your own life where you've tried to like, or around you where you've seen the Streisand Effect, like tried to shut, because I was talking with Rosabelle a little bit more after that. We're like, have we had any instances in our own life? And I don't think we could come up with any. I think you have to be like
You have to
certain
be a level public figure. And
you got to be super famous and have a lot of money to like go after something and have a big allegation.
That one time you tried to shut down those people with your lawyers for talking about that thing you did.
Yeah, that one time.
That didn't happen.
No, let's not talk about it. Yeah, let's not talk about that. Don't Google that. No, but it's like you don't do it unless you've got like money and something to cover up, right?
Well, and notoriety that anyone gives a shit about something you're doing.
And I think that's the other thing. In New Zealand, kind of no one does really give much of a shit. Like it's so low key. I think America is built for the Streisand Effect because there are such egos.
Yeah.
And the lawyers are such a big part of the culture here that people just like swing into action. But you remember, you remember the interview though, right? That movie.
Yeah, I do remember that.
That was the best marketing. Yeah. Sorry, a country is suing you?
And banned this movie.
And like, what the hell? Like instantly in New Zealand, I was like, I must watch. And the movie was completely average. It was fine, but it wasn't an amazing movie. But I saw it because of that. Yeah.
Seth Rogen.
I don't have any other thoughts on that. I'm just like, I think Mike is, I really like him. He's been writing about the internet for about 30 years now. I love that the blog he started in the 90s is like still exists. Like that's crazy that Tech Dirt is still around.
I did like his Netscape reference. I haven't thought about Netscape as an internet browser in a long time. I would imagine it's not around anymore.
Doesn't exist. No. It was Internet Explorer, Netscape Navigator. I remember Freeski, which was the game that was built into all Windows like 3.11 onwards. You'd go skiing and a Yeti would always catch you at one point. Like you couldn't outrun him.
Wait, this is a browser though?
Oh no, I'm talking about a game on like an old
Netscape
like, PC.
was a browser.
Oh yeah, no browsers. I'm just talking about like computers of the 90s. Just like 90s, like the default computer you'd get. Netscape Navigator, America Online, Freeski, Solitaire.
Yeah, Minesweeper.
Minesweeper, my God. Very excited when Microsoft Encarta came out.
Ooh,
an entire encyclopedia on one CD.
Yeah.
Blown away. Like school reports, I used to have to go to the library and look through like books. Now it was all on a CD. I remember our school suddenly had a lot of trouble or as students did, because like they were all just referencing like the one Microsoft Encarta like page. So it became like so narrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love dialing up to the phone line. My first internet connection cost $5 an hour.
Wow.
If you were online for like, it added up. My parents got pretty angry at one point when I stayed online for a very long time.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I once installed Microsoft Windows because we didn't have a CD drive, installed it via about 51 floppy disks, like one by one. God, the internet was like, I feel very lucky to have grown up in a world with no internet and then had the internet arrive as I was like 12, 13, 14.
Yeah. And in like a prime age to be able to understand it.
Yeah.
Developmentally.
The best.
Yeah. And now kids just like have it. And
do you remember like the first thing that you like when you got the internet, the first thing you got excited for? Like mine was like, I can find reports of the Loch Ness Monster and I can look at photos of Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston.
Those were the two things I remember.
I remember emailing an Australian with the same name as me because it was an AOL. And you could email and it would tell you if the user existed or not.
Right.
Like if you typed in an email that didn't exist, it would kick it back and be like, this
so you
is not a email.
Yeah, right.
So I had spelled my name phonetically.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like Rob Hollis, HOLLIS at AOL.com. And I just emailed it and it went through. And the man replied.
What did you say? Like, hi.
Yes, hi.
My name's Rob.
We have the same name, just spelled differently.
That's so cute.
And he responded, and he lived in Australia. I think we emailed 2 or 3 times, and that was it.
So this was your first friend, like in my part of the world?
Yeah,
that you
my
had
first
met.
Internet friend.
Do you know much about him? Like,
No,
did you share much?
Not at all. Yeah, it wasn't a lot, but he responded and said where he was. And
I kind of want you to email him again now and see if he's still
imagine
on.
he's still got the AOL email.
It's Rob. We last spoke about 30 years ago. It's really good. Yeah, I just remember those early days of being on, what did we have? I'm trying to think of the ICQ was like the first chat thing. Did you have that?
No, it was just like AOL chat rooms, I remember.
Right, so we didn't have AOL in New Zealand, but we had ICQ, and I just remember logging in there, and you would say ASL, like age, sex, location.
I remember that.
And I remember the absolute thrill of like finding someone like my age who was like intriguing, and it felt like the most exciting thing ever. And I've never recaptured that like joy of the internet. Like I don't know if kids today get that same level of like, my whole world is fundamentally shifting. It was like a big fat line of cocaine. Not that I would know what that is like, but I've read about it and it sounds fun. Should we do some feedback?
Let's do some feedback.
A lot of feedback to Cryonics last week. A lot of it being quite skeptical and cynical, which I completely understand.
As were we. For the most part.
Were we. But I really enjoyed this one. So McKenna wrote in. McKenna sounds like a surname, but apparently it's their first name. It didn't sell me, but the idea is really interesting. I wanted to write in and share some info about the deep freezing and thawing process, as I'm a scientist that works in a lab trying to use cryogenically frozen cells in our work. Typical cell culture is super long and labor intensive, as you have to take care of the cells daily, and they may still decide to just die anyway. A lot of labs are looking to ready-to-use cells, which are cells that have been cryopreserved in a similar way as described by James. That is, water freezing into crystals being a big issue. The cells will burst. But the cells can be thawed and used immediately. No culture needed. So while Alcor hasn't begun the process of thawing whole organs or bodies, there is already the technology for human cells themselves to survive the freezing and thawing process. So maybe there is some hope for people thawing. Whoever thought that line would be a thing uttered, like in a normal way? Maybe there's hope for the future of people thawing.
I mean, the other crazy thing is, I think we've both been watching Alien Earth.
We are.
And just how much of what we've talked about is in this show.
It's wild.
I think Noah Hawley maybe is a big fan of Flightless Bird.
I like to think he is. That's definitely the reason.
That's gotta be it.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying that show. I've also got some huge issues with it, but overall, big fan.
Yeah.
Someone also noted that I, in the intro to the Cryonics episode, when I was talking about people being unfrozen, I said de-thawing when I meant to say thaw. Just a weird thing my brain does.
Yeah, people really hate that.
They do. I understand. It's like you're saying the opposite.
Yeah.
But it's also like in my brain, de-thawing sounds like you were warming someone up. No, but de-thawing would be the opposite. You're cooling them down.
It's a double negative.
I'm already like confused just thinking about it.
We knew what you meant.
We knew. Allison said, in regards to cryonics, I wonder if people who are commitment adverse are also likely to be afraid of dying. As in, you can't even commit to fucking dying. Like you, David, I'm terrified of dying. I just really don't want to do it. It's obviously the permanence of dying that freaks me out. So this whole cryonics thing sounds alluring in that it's the perfect low commitment death. I just really like that term, low commitment death. But I'm also barely saving for retirement, so it's out of the question. But if I had $1 billion, I'm not going to lie, I would totally put cryonics back on the table. Christine wrote in about the Home Alone house. More specifically, just about the movie Home Alone. I would like to air a grievance about Home Alone and Home Alone 2. Any guesses what this is? What possibly could be a grievance against these two movies?
Both perfect, so I don't know.
Kate McAllister gets too much blame for leaving her son behind. In the first movie, Kevin's oldest sister or cousin is responsible for counting the kids, and she doesn't notice that she counted the wrong kid. In the second movie, Kevin is with his dad, who doesn't make sure Kevin is with him when he rushes out to the gate. Kevin also doesn't make sure he stays with his dad. In both movies, it is Kate, the mother, who gets blamed for leaving her son behind. Just another example of everything falling on the mum, even when she didn't do anything wrong. Just wanted to give some support and love to Kate McAllister. She's unfairly blamed.
I don't think in my mind I blame the mom at all in either of these movies, right? I think I blame Kevin for the most part. Like, Kevin sleeps in.
He's a little shit.
And then that shithead neighbors in the car when they're
Horrible.
counting. But I wasn't like, this is the mom's fault.
I'm trying to think, like, did the movie make out like it? Maybe the movie like made out like it was her.
She was like the hero that was trying to save him, though, too. Like, she was the one frazzled and trying to get back and ends up in the van with the polka group with John Candy. And
no, maybe you're right.
She was, yeah.
She's the hero.
Yeah, to me, yeah.
That's some good point. Christine, possibly. Kate McAllister's made it as being the hero. Maybe it shows a lot about what friend group you're in if they see her as being the enemy,
right,
or the hero.
I am not saying that some people may not have vilified her.
Yeah, no, totally. You were de-vilifying.
Yeah, in my mind, I never thought the mom
was the baddie.
Yeah,
I agree.
Or to blame for him missing both vacations.
That means that you are, Rob, as we already know,
a feminist.
Yeah, a feminist. You'll like to say that I am a feminist. Okay, lightning bugs. This is from Steve. Writing in because of your comment about the possible extinction of the lightning bug, which we talked about post our Chicago show. David, you said you don't know who would possibly kill these bugs. Well, I'm here to say that growing up, we did it all the time. Quite an admission from Steve. Not because we didn't want them around or didn't like them, but as a kid, we'd catch them and wait for their butts to light up and then pinch the lit up part of the butt and stick them on our bodies to make glow-in-the-dark rings, bracelets, and so on. I feel awful as an adult and never pass that down to my children, but at the same time, it was such a great childhood memory. It makes me sad that I may have contributed to the possible extinction of lightning bugs. I will say to Steve that they're not going extinct. Read a few articles, they're okay. And I can imagine as a kid, you would like squeezing something and having what's the word? Phosphorescent skin would be quite exciting.
Well, I also think there were a lot of comments of people who were killing them.
You're not alone.
Yes.
You're not alone, Steve.
And also since that, I got 2 lightning bugs tattooed on the back of my leg.
Can you show them?
No, they can't.
Are they what? Secret? Private?
I don't show my legs, Steve. Not on YouTube.
If you're watching at home, I've seen them. They're beautiful tattoos. They're really nice. And Rob also has, why he doesn't want to reveal the leg is that he also has a tattoo of my face.
Yeah.
And he is embarrassed about that. It is our memory of being in Chicago. There's a lightning bug.
With lightning bugs
and then my
ruffled hair.
Face emerging from that. And it's a beautiful tattoo. And I understand why you don't want to show that right now. It's okay. I'm a bit like hurt that you're embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
But I have the knowledge that it's there. I know Natalie isn't happy about it, but I appreciate you and thank you. Wait till you see my back tattoo of your face. It's really great. As always, feedback. What are we? What's our email? Flightlessbirdpod at gmail.com. If you have any...
is it? Or flightlessbirdchat?
Oh, yeah, it is.
You got it wrong, David.
It's flightlessbirdchat at gmail.com. Flightlessbirdpod is our YouTube channel.
Yes. At flightlessbirdpod.
Yes. At flightlessbirdchat. Flightlessbirdchat at gmail.com is our email.
And at flightlessbirdpod. YouTube.com/@flightlessbirdpod is our YouTube.
That's correct. If you have any feedback or stories or access you would like us to chase, just email in. Love our inbox. It's a genuine delight to open it up and read the crazy things that you send in. Even Steve, who went around as a child, a little psychopath, squishing every innocent lightning bug that he could possibly find and then smear it over his naked body as he ran through the streets. Sicko Steve. That's what his friends called him. Anything else?
No, I think that does it.
Okay. If you have any good Streisand Effect examples, email in. Love to hear them. Barbara Streisand, if you're listening, flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on.
If you want to come on and like tell your side of the story, because I think the book, you kind of missed the point a bit there.
Yeah.
We would love to have you, mainly so you can explain to Rob how you are different
From Dolly
from
Parton.
Dolly Parton. That is our main thing. I mean, in my mind, Dolly Parton, like
I know, I know.
legend.
Yeah.
Streisand, I don't know. I'm not convinced.
It's more when I try to think what Barbara Streisand looks like.
For me, it's Celine Dion and Barbara Streisand.
I got like Martha Stewart's in there a little bit.
Yeah, she's
too.
in there. Yeah.
Reba McEntire, maybe
Yeah.
a little bit.
Okay, so Streisand, if you could email in and just you can come on the show and you can just explain how you were different to those
From
people.
these other people.
And maybe we'll do like a little acoustic set.
Yeah,
Like
we
these
would love
mics
to
are
have
beautiful.
you.
Like Rob is amazing at recording audio. And to play the show out, you could do your big hit. What is her big hit? Do we know?
No, but you can cover our theme song though too.
Barbara Streisand has had several major hits through her career, but her biggest can be narrowed down to a few key songs. God, AI just rambles on.
Yeah, just right. Just
Woman in Love from 1980, cited as their biggest international hit, reaching number 1 in 19 countries.
That was before I was born, so I'd feel like
Yeah.
it's okay.
73, The Way We Were.
Way before I was
76, Evergreen. Don't Bring Me Flowers in 78. And No More Tears, Enough is Enough in 79. So yeah, you've got reason not to know.
Yeah.
Barbara, come on our show, debut your new hit. We will bring you to the top of the charts. We'll bring you back. All right. See you next week.
born. See you next week.